Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 224, your weekly little get-together. We talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is...
I'm David.
Tonight, David, we got some more Cyberpunk 2077 news coming out over the Night City Wire, as well as a bunch of hands-on previews that people got a hold of. Ubisoft has somewhat teased its own Battle Royale game on the horizon, and Crucible gets rebaited because apparently... Betoed? Because apparently it sucks. It got put back in the oven.
It did.
Before we get to any of that, however, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast, meaning if you're watching us here live at Twitch TV/GamePoints at Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, please feel free to join the conversation. If you're watching us later over at youtube.com/GamePointsPC, feel free to comment down below on whatever topic we might have on hand. Just try to keep it germane to the conversation that's going on at the moment, so that way we can kind of tie it into the greater conversation that we have right here. Conversation. As I say, remember I was talking about before the show about how people in journalism try to keep from using the same word multiple times?
Yeah.
Because it sounds robotic as hell when you say the same word multiple times.
I love saying the same word over and over. It's great.
Yeah, same word.
That's how we should do the whole thing.
David, do you have anything you want to share over the weekend, or should we just get right into the news? Because I got nothing. I've been playing Destiny a lot lately. I'm back on that fucking train.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing Avorion, but that's a whole other thing.
What is Avorion?
It is a space exploration game that I would put in the kind of escape velocity privateer, like freelancer vein.
Okay.
Where you start as a dude, you're in a little ship. It's voxel based, so it does have a little bit of that Minecraft or Space Engineers buildiness to it. You can build ships, you can blow up ships, you can be a pirate, you can be a trader, you can be a miner. You're just, in the galaxy trying to make money.
That does sound a lot like Privateer X or even Rogue Galaxy.
Yes. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And it came on radar because it beat out Anno last year, I think, like German Games Fest for their awards.
You were saying something like that.
As like the best German game,
okay.
I believe is what it was.
It's pretty impressive because Anno is huge in Germany. I think it's actually its biggest market is in Germany. Not positive on that. I was talking with the dev of Anno 1800 one time, and I think he casually dropped that, and it was years ago, or a year and a half ago at this point, rather.
It's popular. It's on sale. I like things that are in space, so I bought it.
Sounds good. David, last week we had essentially the Cyberpunk Direct. They called it Night City Wire. Yep. They hinted that it's going to be the first Night City Wire, so expect more of these as we get closer to its November release date.
Probably the most exciting thing that I've been waiting for, like this whole summer. Here's our Summer Games Fest thing of not E3.
Yeah, which it's been so far kind of a bust, actually. I get that we don't really have any big reveals or anything like that, but I haven't seen anything this year yet that has, like, blown me away as far as the whole summer of not E3.
I mean, they gotta not let all the good stuff out up front, right?
No, this is the time to be hyping up your new consoles.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is the time we should be getting... like the shitty Killzone 2 trailer that was clearly faked and stuff like that.
The problem is the Cold War of PlayStation and Xbox right now, and no one is going to just start dropping crazy shit until one of those kids says, by the way, it costs blank. Here's all of everything.
That's why I think, I'm not 100% certain, but I am leaning toward the idea that Microsoft is going to bring the thunder during the July Xbox 2020 event.
We'll see. I don't have any.
You have no hope at all.
No, I have no reason to speculate. Anyway, we're not talking about all that stuff.
Right, back to Cyberpunk.
We're talking about Cyberpunk, which is still the, I think, only other game I'm looking forward to this year.
Honestly. Oh, let me think about this. So I know we got Ghost of Tsushima out in like a couple weeks or so, or about a week and a half.
That game looks very good.
Yeah, I want to play that. I will more than likely be playing that on stream. But other than Cyberpunk, I can't think of anything that's actually coming out this year off the top of my head. Nintendo has nothing. You figure they have to have some kind of announcement coming up soon. Other than Paper Mario, but Paper Mario a year does not make. Nintendo... Sony and Microsoft...
Well, it's everything's going to be.
just
It's because everything's going to be relying on the new consoles.
yeah.
Right. That's what everything's going to be on, and with some amount of crossplay. And it's just, I'm not that excited about it right now.
I mean,
but
you'll have your yearly shit. You have the new Assassin's Creed coming up. You have the new Call of Duty coming up, and all that good stuff. But it just feels like another year on the horizon. Now, I could be, but by the time holidays come around, I could be completely wrong on that. But just off the top of my head, Cyberpunk is the only thing I could think of in the immediate future, and by immediate I mean the next 6 months, that I'm really craving.
Yeah, and it's kind of got that perfect storm, right? It's right there in the name. It's a cyberpunk game, so it's got that whole Blade Runner kind of vibe going for it. It's also from CG Project Red, who've made the Witcher games, which are pretty damn good, and it looks amazing.
So what did you think? Let's get back on to what they actually showed on Thursday. There were two things that happened. One, you had the Night City Wire, and then two, you had a whole bunch of preview coverage from multiple outlets where apparently some of the journalists got on hands on preview for like 5 hours of the game. So, with all of that information that came out, what did you see that really caught your eye? Because I kind of have a little bit of a summary of some things I want to mention.
Well, it looks like a very clean, very detailed kind of like Deus Ex universe.
That's the first thing that popped in my mind was Deus Ex. It was a far more RPG focused version of Deus Ex.
Yeah, it's that game, but without all of the walls. Because I really liked, what is it, Human Revolution?
Yeah, and Mankind Divided. Those are the two new ones with Adam Jensen.
I liked those games, and they were narrow enough that I could actually get through them because I have that whole open world problem. But that being said, there's always that little bit of I'm kind of locked in here, and this is the path that I take, and this is the way that I go. And I know that you can like still kind of cheese it and like sneak one way, or you can attack the other way, and blah blah blah. But it's not as big and busy feeling as this game looks. You know, when you go outside in that game, there's 4 people on the street, and you're in an alley, and you go from the left side of the alley to the right side of the alley, and you're done being outside.
It's manageable. I don't necessarily agree with it sounds like you're almost willing to say it's empty, but specifically the second one, which I think it was Human. What was the second of the 2 new Deus Ex games? Mankind Divided? Yeah, Mankind Divided. The city of Prague didn't necessarily have a bunch of NPCs running around, but that city had a lot of shit hidden in it. Actually, that city stems from Warren Spector's dream of, I want to build a game rather than having this entire city explored. I just want it to be one city block.
Yeah, that's fair.
But just built very deep. Like every individual room you can go in and explore. That was kind of him filling out that idea. So, but it just didn't have...
like that one specific part, but times a lot.
Yeah, that's one of my kind of concerns, is that might be too big, because I remember The Witcher 3
is the worry
huge.
Because Witcher is like a 160-hour game.
I dropped 169 on The Witcher 3, and that's not counting expansions.
And I feel like this game's going to be bigger than that. But that being said, I almost guarantee I will never actually beat Cyberpunk. Just knowing myself, I'll probably never beat that game. But I will probably play tons of hours just wandering around and doing shit because it sounds fun.
Does the idea let's say it's 160. Does the idea of a 160-hour game excite you for Cyberpunk?
No, not off the surface. I don't need a game to be that long. That's too long. That's why I'm just saying up front that I'm not going to beat that game. I'm not going to finish that game. I'm probably not even going to 50% that game. But if it's got 160 hours of like story content and what the average player puts into it, that means that I have probably 200-300 hours of dicking around that I can do.
Right.
I've played Skyrim probably a 24 times, like starting different characters and doing different things and playing with different mods. Never beaten Skyrim ever.
And by finish, I mean like the roll credits on the main quest, I guess.
Never done it. No idea what the end of that game happens.
This is somewhat timely.
I don't know what happens to that dragon in Skyrim. No clue.
This is somewhat timely because the discussion of game length has kind of popped back up in the Twitter sphere recently when someone, I don't remember who, verified checkmark guy, I can't remember which one, essentially just innocuously tweeted out, games are too long. But we've had this conversation before.
Games are too long for some people and too short for other people.
That's part of it, but I also don't think that a game is ever too long. I think that's too nebulous and undescriptive of a term. Because let's tie this into both The Witcher 3 and the newly released Last of Us 2. The Witcher 3, I sunk 169 hours in. I know that number by heart because I did every single thing you could do in that game, including tracking down every fucking question mark with the underwater resources and everything like that. And the sans expansions. And when I was done and I finished that game, I immediately went, you know, I could stand another 30 hours of that. The Last of Us 2 was about 20 to 25 hours for me to finish. When I finished it, I sat that controller down and went, that game should have been 8 fucking hours long. Thus showing, at least for me, your results may vary, length is not a problem. And I don't think length is a problem for most people, even because they don't have to finish it in a weekend. They can take 2 years to finish it. The problem is fucking pacing. But since
how does it feel? How padded is it?
Yes.
How direct is it? How action packed is it? And, there's a million different things.
Yes. And when so many reviews of Main Street sites say the game is too long or the game needs to be 10 hours shorter, I don't think that's accurate. What should actually be said is the game's pacing fucking sucks.
The game is missing. The game has 10 hours of padding.
Yeah. So that's why I hate the conversation of games are too long, because far too often people say, "Oh, the game was too long. It should have been 20 hours shorter." And when you press them on it, it's never because the game itself was actually too long. It's because it was just full of bullshit that didn't need to be there, which can be summed up as too long.
For
but
a
that's
lot of
too
gamers,
nebulous.
For a lot of people that play games, it's not actually an issue of like time, because there's people that have literal weeks played of like WoW and things like that.
Civ 6. How long should Civ 6 be?
Exactly.
So that's why I hate the games are too long argument as an argument itself. It's like, no. Go deeper than that.
But that being said, this game is probably going to be too long for me. And also that means it'll be just right. Because while I very rarely finish open world games, I do still enjoy them. I like playing around with systems. I like running around and being dumb and just kind of seeing what happens in the game when I do X, Y, and Z.
So one thing I want to bring up, this kind of ties into the game length conversation, is that apparently the game's going to be split into 7 districts. You have the 6 sections of Night City, and then the 7th is supposed to be the surrounding area called the Badlands.
Which is where I'll probably spend about 80% of my game time.
So my biggest concern, I don't even want to say it's a concern, but I have to wonder, how big is the Badlands compared to the rest of it? Because if you think Grand Theft Auto 5, which is another massive game, you had the section of the city, and then the entire north of the map was just wasteland.
Yeah, because the city itself was actually pretty damn small if you just drive from end to end. And the map is big, but a lot of the map is, there's a mountain, and there's a little town on one side, and there's a bunch of freeways.
That is what kind of makes me wonder how they're going to if that section is like where 80% of the collectibles are and you're just driving around looking shit up, that might be a problem with pacing.
Yeah, but can I put a chain gun on the hood of that weird futuristic
I don't know.
Trans Am and go from there?
The sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned with this game. I have, it's a bit of a concern, but I have exceedingly high bar of expectations for this. Which means if it doesn't hit it, it's going to be bad. I'm breaking one of my rules, where I constantly tell people, don't get hyped for anything. Don't get too excited.
You're actually hyping yourself for Cyberpunk? That's funny.
I'm hyping myself for Cyberpunk, though, because this is a franchise that I've loved back before a game was even announced. Like, I remember the old R. Talosian pen and paper RPG of this, done by Mike Pondsmith and everything like that. So I am steeped in the lore of this fucking thing.
Anyway, so power in the city of
other details that we've learned over the couple days
is going to be split between 7 different gangs and 3 mega corporations.
So 10 factions, it sounds like, that you're balancing between.
But I feel like it's because you've got 6 districts and then a 7th outside district, and you've got 7 gangs. So I'm assuming it's going to be a gang for each district, more or less, and then mega corporations that divvy up parts of the city as well. So you have kind of the criminal side, a good way of
saying it. Yeah,
and you also have the legitimate, quote unquote, side.
You would have yeah, gain control of each district, and then the megacorps probably divide the city up 2 districts each.
Yep.
That does sound about right. One thing I am kind of excited for about the game is, and a lot of the stuff they revealed are for the most part just mechanics we've seen in other games, right? For example, they showed off the brain dance mechanic, which is a very, very fancy version of Batman Arkham Asylum's detective mode.
Yeah.
Which we see everywhere now. There's an origin story thing that we see not everywhere, but it's been done with Dragon Age Origins.
I played Dragon Age. I remember that.
But one of the origins is that you get to be a corporate stooge.
Yeah.
And if you don't think for one fucking second I'm not going corporate rat, you are sorely mistaken, my friend.
Of course you are.
Super excited for that. What did you see that really caught your eye on what was revealed? Was there anything specific?
Honestly, I really want to drive around in that city. All of the drive, and it's kind of funny that this is like a dumb thing to be excited about, but all the driving I saw the place just looks cool to be in.
Yeah, it's very, for an open world game in first person, it is exceedingly full.
Mm-hmm.
And that, it seems to be what a lot of people who got their hands on with it were saying as well. That as they were just driving around, not just full of people of all shapes and sizes, but just fucking quest markers popping up everywhere. The little blips that pop off that make you go, okay, what's this? And you drive off the beaten path.
And again, it's the thing where I know I'm never going to beat this game because just watching all the gameplay videos that we've now gotten, I am going to have to start the game over like 8 different times to make a completely different character. I'm going to have the super stealthy hacker guy. I'm going to have the crazy melee blade arm character. And then I'm going to have someone that's just literally made of guns. Like, I have to.
And this would be the first time that CD Projekt Red's done, I don't want to say done things like this, but they're not shy of ensuring that you see every bit of content. The Witcher 2, for example, has a branching part roughly a quarter of the way through, which is dramatically different depending on what side you pick. And by dramatically, I mean there are entire maps you will never see if you don't pick the other side. Yeah. There are characters you will never encounter. There are storylines you will never experience unless you play through that game twice and deliberately pick both sides.
As long as I get to hang out with Keanu, though, I'm good.
One thing to note, too, is that in the 5 hours so these people, the journalists, influencers, whatever you want to call them, played at this, Keanu didn't really pop up. So apparently he's supposed to be the second biggest character in the game with a huge amount of lines recorded. But he does not make an appearance within the first few hours of the game. Now, I don't know if that's going to change or not.
Probably something spoilery, so they're just saving it.
Could be. They were playing the first prologue bit, too, and if it holds true to the trailer that we saw at E3, he would appear after shit goes bad in the prologue.
Yep, makes sense.
So, we'll see. But 5 hours for a prologue is fucking intense. Let's see. A couple sites, what they were saying about it. Oh, one more thing about the Night City Wire thing. Apparently, there is a Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime coming to Netflix in 2022.
Who's making it?
Fuck.
Doesn't matter, because the fact that you have to think about it means it's not the Castlevania dude, which means I don't really care.
No, it's not the Castlevania dude. It's Studio Trigger. It's the company that does Kill la Kill, Little Witch Academia, which is fucking huge. Apparently, I've never seen it myself. Brand New Animal, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, Studio Trigger,
I don't know what any of those things are. So, like I said, if it's not the guy from Castlevania, I never heard of it.
I got some quotes from various outlets, by the way. I want to go ahead and read on here. Let me know if any of these kind of stoke the fires of your interest even higher than they're already at. Before I get into it, this is possibly the most excited you've been for a game since Dark Souls 3, right?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. It just shows. I can see it on your that
I'm a total
on your face.
total sucker for this game already, and it's one of those practice what you preach things. I'm not going to pre-order this game, but I'll probably still buy it the day it comes out. I don't know that's better.
I'm in the same boat. So CNET from the article from CNET. I'll have all these article links posted down below so you can read them. CNET says, there's gunplay, which I can happily report feels more satisfying than many RPG action games, largely on account of it being first person. But there's also a hacking element where you override surrounding tech, such as cameras, speakers, some weapons to distract, confuse, and kill opponents. Plus, there's a separate element of stealth. You can tag enemies, steam through walls, sneak up, incapacitate them, dispose them in nearby fridges and dumpsters. David, I picked this quote out specifically because that sounds a hell of a lot like the way Deus Ex played.
Hell yeah, for sure.
And oddly enough, did you ever play that first-person shooter version of Syndicate? EA rolled that up a few years back and pissed all the Syndicate fans off because Syndicate is not anywhere near a first-person shooter.
No, I don't think I did.
Okay. The whole hacking cameras and fire extinguisher stuff sounds a lot like that, because what you would do is you would like target them real quick, and then you would press like a button, and like a second goes by, and then they would go off and distract, and you can like shoot them.
Gotcha. Okay.
That sounds a lot like those two games combined. IGN mentions the origin idea, to where you're started off with 3 origin stories for your character, V. You can start the nomad life on the outskirts of Night City, be the street kid who slums in the urban jungle, or begin as a connected corporate goon. David, I'd imagine the nomad life is for you.
Hell yeah. We're going to burn these cities down.
It reminds me so much of Judge Dredd and the people that live outside the megaplexes.
Hell yeah.
Doesn't it have like that Judge Dredd vibe there?
I'm going to show up in the city in a robe with a shotgun.
You could choose to free roam between missions, of course, but even as you go from one quest to the next, it quickly becomes apparent that Night City is huge. As I drove around, I saw a lot of the question mark icons pop up. Those are what I was talking about when I was reading earlier, about how it has that Skyrim effect where you're going from City A to City B, but you never make it because every time you take 5 steps in one direction, more shit pops up on your radar and you have to go explore it.
I'm actually curious to find out how much of the like free roam quests are curated, and if they did any kind of procedurally generated questing like Skyrim did.
I hope they didn't. Witcher 3 didn't have any procedural quest generated.
That's what I'm hoping, is that they did the same Witcher thing where everything was built to be its own little story. Because that's amazing.
The Radiant quest system, the Skyrim, okay, cool, I get it. It's supposed to pad the game out, but remember what we said about padding.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of it, okay, cool, I'm fine with. A lot of it, though, I start getting real fucking tired of real quick. Games Radar said that the opening mission that follows will be completely different depending on which of the origins you choose. So think Dragon Age Origins, where depending on what you pick, the first 6 hours of the game is different, and they all come together. I would imagine that's how it works. So your first 5 to 10 hours, unique to your background.
I think it probably carries, right? Because even 20 hours into the game, your character is still from where they're from. So if you walk into a fancy business meeting, maybe they don't really give a shit about you, unless you're a corporate guy.
They mentioned that here. From then on, much of the game story, much of the dialogue can be influenced by your backstory, too. That reminds me a lot of the recent Shadowrun, or I shouldn't say recent, couple years at this point, Shadowrun RPGs that Harebrained Schemes did.
Oh, yeah.
Where if you pick corporate, for example, as one of your backgrounds, you'll get bonuses to conversations with corporate-leaning NPCs and also unlock specific dialogue options. Because it shows that you know the lingo. You're in with them. And they will sometimes open up new paths, maybe give you a little bit more information, or even just avoid boss fights every now and then. We'll see. Going back to Games Radar, it says additional dialogue is unlocked depending on whether you've come from the streets, corporate, more or less what I said. One thing of note that I saw that I'm really concerned about, though, is that apparently dialogue is done through the dialogue wheel again. Now, I hate the dialogue wheel. Because it used to be, I'm an old school RPG player when it comes to computer games. On Baldur's Gate, you would have the entire line of text shown in front of you, so you know exactly what you're going to say.
Yep, not the vagary bullshit like snarky response or positive response or like. I actually really agree that I hate when you have a dialogue option and you pick a piece of dialogue because you think that's what the character is going to say, and then they give it a completely different intonation. You end up offending somebody, and that wasn't your intention. Yes. Or worse, you end up saying the nice thing to the guy that you really want to punch in the face.
I would say worse than all that is the illusion of choice, because a lot of those dialogue wheels are variations of the exact same.
Yeah, thing. They all just lead to the same. No matter what you say, the guy kind of says the same thing after it.
Yeah. Whereas Baldur's Gate's like, I know exactly what I'm going to say, so if I want to tell this guy to fuck off, I can find the fuck off option. Whereas, say, in Mass Effect, to use Mass Effect 3 specifically, which had some notoriously non-choicey dialogue wheel options, regardless of which one you say, you're just saying a variant of, I'm going to go here now.
Yeah, but we'll see. I feel like the CD Projekt Red guys played Planescape. Maybe we'll be lucky.
We'll see. The Witcher 3 also did kind of have a little bit of stuff like that. In a game that gives me so many customizable ways, so many ways that I can create my character, all the way down to if I have like a massive cock or a lightning-shaped bush above my vagina, Which, yes, that is in the game, by the way. You can customize your landscaping up there. Or down there, I should say, I guess. If you give me that much choice at the beginning, I kind of expect that much choice to carry throughout the rest of the game. But when you give a player that much choice, you have to limit the scope of your game because you can only account for so many variables. This is the Mass Effect 3 ending problem. Where after 3 games, you had so many branching ways things could go down. The only way you could resolve that much shit is to cram it all into one ending. Or in Mass Effect 3's choice, the options between red, blue, and green.
Mm-hmm.
That's you can't develop a separate ending for the who knows how many permutations of universe you might have created. So
well, we'll
that's what I'm concerned about with this, is that they might talk about all the choice that you have, but at the end of the day, it's, are you the good guy? Are you the radical? Or are you the evil asshole? That has always bothered me. At that point, I'd rather you just make a character for me and tell me their story rather than say that I can live my own.
Fair. Unless they just give me the option to pick the sarcastic thing every single time.
The Joss Whedon character.
Yeah, just...
David, do you have anything else you want to mention about this Cyberpunk reveal? We've been talking about this for about 20, 30 minutes now or so.
I think we could just end on the fact that we're both decently excited for this game. I'm really excited to see what the next what the fuck they call it? Night
City Wire. I keep wanting to call it Nightwire City, and I know that's not right.
Night City Wire. Anyway, we'll see more of this game, and eventually it'll come out. Who knows when it's going to come out? I don't believe any other release dates.
It's supposed to be really November 17th, but I'm kind of in the same...
The longer it takes, the more time I have to save to buy a new graphics card, and ideally buy one that comes with the game so I don't actually have to buy the game. That's all I'm waiting for, so go ahead and take your time, guys. That's fine.
David, let's do a hard jump to the next topic. I'm going to let you,
oh my God,
you lead this one.
This is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Oh, man. Developer update. Good old Amazon is talking to us about Crucible. You remember this?
No,
this came
what was
out
Crucible?
Everybody was so excited, right, for Crucible.
No.
It's a kind of a hero shooter style game that Amazon made. Amazon has their own game studio. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's called like Amazon Game Studios or some shit.
Yeah.
And
they made a video game and they called it Crucible, and it has kind of a third-person MOBA-esque, hero shooter-esque vibe, you know, in a industry that definitely doesn't have enough of those. Crucible happened, and it turns out that it's so horrible it's been unreleased. in a quote from the developer update that was posted at theplaycrucible.com a few weeks ago, I being who the fuck even wrote this? Colin Johansson and the Crucible team. I told you the steps we were taking to change and improve Crucible in response to your feedback. That plan is still the same, but we're taking a new step that will help us focus on providing the best possible experience for our players as we continue to make the game better. Starting tomorrow, at the time of that writing, which was, what, the 30th?
Recently, a day or two ago, if not today. Oh, actually, I think it was today. I take that back.
Was it today? Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember if it was yesterday, honestly. Anyway, starting today, or tomorrow, Crucible is moving to closed beta.
Now, to give you an idea of how unprecedented this is, not even Anthem moved back into beta.
The only one I had a question on was Final Fantasy XIV unreleased?
No, they just kind of rebooted everything. I don't think it was. No, in fact, I know they didn't, because they actually had a big event that was featuring the end of the world.
Okay.
And in fact, that event...
That's the only game that I could think of that maybe had something like this. But yeah, No Man's Sky just kind of limped along, and then they changed it. Anthem is still limping along. Final Fantasy XIV obviously was rebooted, but it was never pulled away from players. This isn't... In
fact, Final Fantasy XIV's rebooting is a key plot point to Final Fantasy XIV as it stands right now.
I think there has been some other early access games that were like put back into early access. And
no, I can't think of a single one.
And people got a refund. I thought there was a game that they had like released it and then pulled it back and then gave people refunds. I swear we talked about something like that. But
that does sound familiar.
Right? But I have no idea what that was, and that could have been years ago. But
all of you watching at home, please, if you know of a case of this actually happening, I don't mean early access going on. I don't mean something in early access or beta getting stopped, because that happens all the time.
being removed from public accessibility and going back into a closed beta format.
Yeah. Please,
Downright
if you guys know what that is, let us know.
Anyway, for the most part, continuing on with the quotes from their blog post, for the most part, your experience as a Crucible player will stay pretty much the same while we're in beta. That, if you're playing it. One of the biggest changes you'll see is that we're going to schedule dedicated time each week when we as devs will be playing with the community and soliciting feedback.
David, that's actually a really cool idea. I think that needs to happen during a lot of early access things.
Yeah, especially with online kind of service-style games, they do need a little bit more time just kind of out in the wild with the community.
Right.
To actually make sense and make sure it's something that people want to do.
Right, because on the dev side of things, I can't say for certain, but you'd imagine they're all using the exact same PC or variants of the very close to same spec.
Well, and they're also playing it the way that they've figured out how to play it as devs.
Yeah.
But when people get a handle on your game, they're going to try and find ways to break it. They're going to do all kinds of interesting things. And what you intended for the player to do and what the player actually does are very rarely the same thing.
And also what your team of 100 really loves to do, 1,000 people might hate.
Yep.
So I love the idea of the devs playing to people for feedback. That's something I don't think I've seen another studio do before.
Anyway, going on, even though Crucible will be in closed beta, nothing has changed about the way you can engage with the game. You're still welcome to stream, to share screenshots and clips, and to talk about your experience in the beta. If you've got friends who want to be a part of the Crucible beta, you can encourage them to get the game before tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., 6 p.m. Central Time. In the near future, newly interested folks will be able to sign up through playcrucible.com. It's insane because it's like reducing the scope of the game, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a release. They're going back to a beta format, which also means that you need to sign up to play it, which means that it's unreleased because I can't just go to their website and click download and play the game anymore.
I want to double check this tomorrow after that time goes up and see if I can still find it on Steam or something for free to download.
See, I feel like you're going to have to sign up and try and get a beta key.
Yeah.
And who knows how many they're going to send out.
This is the first time I can ever think of something like this happening. Like I said, we've had examples that are close. Final Fantasy 15 or 14 rather. We've had examples of games getting just completely pulled. Mm-hmm. We've had examples of games where they go, okay, we're going to stop focus on this and we'll come back to it, a la Anthem. But I can't think of a single one that just went, hey, we're going back to beta. Yeah, I just can't, and it's really annoying because you figure that this has happened before, but I can't think of specifically the situation where it's happened.
Yeah, it's completely crazy.
Did you play Crucible?
No.
Okay. I'd be curious to know what its numbers are.
I looked at it and I was kind of vaguely interested in it, but not that much. And I know we've already discussed when the game came out, it was kind of a huge flop. It wasn't being streamed very well. No one was really playing it. It had very low numbers, and we were both speculating on the fact that Amazon's either going to do one of two things. They're going to try and shore up and focus and hunker down and work on this game and make it a video game, or Amazon's going to be like, turns out we don't need a game studio, and everyone's going to
just shut it down. It's just, man,
it looks like hopefully it looks like the former is happening, right? While they are moving into a closed beta format, that's not turning the game off, which I guess is better.
There's nothing about now. I don't want to sound like I'm being overly an ass to because game development's hard. It's hard to fact and actually release something. It takes way more time than I think people realize. Mm-hmm. There is nothing about this that doesn't scream piece together from something else to me. It is so generic feeling on every level to me. I have actively forgot this game existed, and it just released until this story came out.
Yep.
It just went in one ear right out the other. I was like, what the fuck was Crucible? Oh, that's what Crucible was. While on the topic of games that just strike me as generic as fuck in genres that are oversaturated, let's go ahead and talk about this rumor right here. This rumor comes via Rod Breslau, at Slasher on Twitter. He's mainly an esports focused kind of guy. Rumor: Ubisoft to show off its Battle Royale soon. He says that sources. Monday, Ubisoft will tease a new game codenamed Prisma Dimensions, which is actually a new AAA multiplayer fast-paced FPS battle royale from Ubisoft Montreal, named Hyperscape, and they did. The Twitter page for Hyperscape went live. Ubisoft was the first person to respond to it. You can expect more information of this coming out soon.
There's also a sign-up page for the beta.
Is there a sign-up page for the beta? All right. More from Rod here. Hyperscape is a free-to-play battle royale FPS set in a futuristic world for both PC and consoles, with the console launch coming later this year to include crossplay. Hyperscape goes into closed beta next week with an open beta for full launch of the game on July 12th, so very quick. Hyperscape is being built with streamers in mind in a full partnership with Twitch, with never seen levels of integration from a big game before. Twitch chat will, among other things, be able to directly impact the game live with game-changing events.
Didn't we hear about this rumor, like, actually a while ago?
No, I don't think so.
That actually, I didn't even think about that. I thought we had talked about a game that actually, they were building a game. I don't think it was this, but a game that was built with streamer participation in mind, so that people could, like, screw with you, and it was Hunger Gamesy. Like, we're gonna give this guy extra ammo.
You know what? That's fuck. It was on that. There was this during one of the video game awards, I think, not last year, but the year before. There was a glut of battle royale knockoffs that are like, and people watch it on Twitch, because Twitch integration is like a big thing for these things right now, because the streamers were the streaming is like where a lot of money for the BR stuff they want to
way
get
better than Mixer integration. Hey-o.
So I wouldn't be surprised. It's as I said, relating to generic things, everything about this game seems to be cashing in on trends that are already dominated. Twitch integration, battle royale FPS, the style of this game. If you want to go to Slasher and take a look at stuff, I just look at it and I go, I can't tell if that's Apex Legends, Fortnite, or any of the other dozen battle royales out there right now that's not called
Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's not called Call of Duty, because that's kind of... I miss gray and brown, David.
Right?
Everything is all bright and colorful and shiny. I'm just like, no, enough. Now, this game does look a little bit grittier than that, and I haven't seen it in motion. I've only seen the stills. But still, I see nothing that makes this stand out to me, and honestly, it just feels like Ubisoft is having their Me Too moment. I don't mean that in the sexual allegation thing, even though the next...
I was like...
I mean, like, me too. Look at me.
Like, are you mixing up stories?
Don't worry. The actual Ubisoft Me Too moment is going to be the next story that we're talking about.
Okay.
Back to Slasher here. Much like the launches of Valorant and Apex Legends, Ubisoft invited hundreds of streamers and pro gamers and YouTubers to get a first look at this game. And like a Games Press too, I did get an invite to this, but I turned it down because they wanted to do it remotely, and I was just like, I have no interest in taking a look at this at all, because I actually thought it was something else. They wouldn't tell me what it was. They just said battle royale game, and I immediately went, nah, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah,
don't care. From the press side of things, not from the streamer side of things. I suck on the streamer side of things. And we'll be releasing the first gameplay footage under embargo later this week, so expect a whole bunch of information to be coming out probably tomorrow or Thursday, if I had to venture a guess, not Friday. David, do you care about this at all?
Not even a little bit.
It just feels late, right?
Well, like, Fortnite was a game, and I tried it, and I was like, I get the popularity. And I played PUBG, and I was like, this game's pretty tense, but it's really clunky. And I played Epic Legends. I'm like, this is the best a Battle Royale's been. This game's pretty damn fun. Respawn knows what they're doing. Then Call of Duty happened, and I'm like, okay, actually, this one is the winner.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
It has the tension and kind of stakes feel of PUBG with the great gunplay that you get from Apex, because those studios know how to make guns that shoot well in video games. And you also have, unfortunately, the shit ton of Activision money behind it, so it's got a ton of stuff being dumped into it at all times.
Well,
and they've got like 100 versus 100 thing, or
I don't think we can say that Call of Duty has Activision money while neglecting the fact that Apex Legends has EA money. So I don't think the budget's a problem between those two games.
That's fair, but the Call of Duty game feels more like a developer manufactured game or publisher manufactured game. Like, it was built to, this is the game built to make us money, whereas Apex feels more of like, Respawn made this, and yes, it's making money, but Respawn wanted to make this.
Okay. Fair enough.
And I don't know if that actually means anything to anybody, but that's the like vibe I get. One of these is a game that was made by a studio that wanted to make it. The other one was made by a studio that was told to make it, and as such, they're like following a playbook. Which
and you like that playbook one better than Apex Legends,
which seems weird, and I don't like that, but kind of. Yeah.
Hey, it's like the music industry, right? They know what sells now, so any song that you hear these days has actually literally been created in a lab. That's why all of your top 40 pop hits have like 50 people credited for writing the song.
That's why I just listen to music from the 90s.
All music stopped after 1994, baby. All right,
anyway,
David.
If you guys want to sign up, there's a sign up page for the Ubisoft Battle Royale game on Prisma Dimensions, something.
Prismadimensions.com.
Just Google Prisma Dimensions or Hyperscape. We don't need to post a link because none of you guys are going to click on it anyway.
I'm going to go ahead and take this next story here, too, because I've already alluded to it. This is from GameIndustry.biz. Ubisoft reportedly places executives on lead amid abuse allegations. I'm going to read everything here first, and then I will ask you for what you think, David. 2 senior members of Ubisoft have been placed on administrative leave during an investigation into abuse and bullying within the publisher, a new report has revealed. Bloomberg cites anonymous sources familiar with the matter who claim Tommy Francois and Maxime Badlands have both been placed on leave. Each man faces at least 3 claims of misconduct from a mix of named and anonymous sources. Or accusers, rather. Francois is the publisher's vice president for editorial and creative services, and based in the company's Paris office. Badlands is the vice president of editorial and works in the Toronto office. Neither commented to Bloomberg, but Ubisoft spokeswoman Stephanie Mangier said, quote, "These are under investigation, so we're not commenting further at this time," end quote. These are by far the 2 biggest named people from Ubisoft, but there have been multiple allegations against several other people in Ubisoft. Specifically, I can think of 2 that work out of the San Francisco office that I have actually had personal interactions with, and I don't want to name them because I can't give a biased or unbiased statement, rather, one way or another on it, because I have had multiple conversations, like more than just, hey, how are you doing? I mean, I've actually been friendly with both these people, not the ones in the article, but the ones I'm thinking of, but you can find out their names later. The reason why I'm even bringing it up is because 1, is important to state that these are allegations, but 2, if true, it sounds like Ubisoft has a major fucking problem with this.
Yep.
What do you think? I am removing myself from this conversation entirely now at this point because of my relationship to people who have actively been accused at Ubisoft.
I hope the truth comes out, and if these guys are in the wrong, they get burned for it. Not literally burned, but the I done fucked up and it didn't work out for me kind of burned. Depending on the seriousness of what they did, fired or, I don't know, suspended or it just depends on exactly what happened, and I do hope that we find it out and that the investigation isn't just something that goes nowhere and then everything goes back to normal and we all just kind of ignore it. But yeah, I don't like shitty people, and if they are shitty people, I hope they get what's coming to them.
What is your opinion on this playing out on social media?
It is going to be a giant cluster fire, like everything is on social media.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to this, David? Like I said, I have my own opinions on it, but like I said, I'm staying 100% out of this one just for editorial purity, I guess, for lack of a better term.
It just sucks. I mean, we had a million different things, and everybody's kind of having this happen again, and it's not just Ubisoft. I mean, there's tons of companies that we're hearing about all these allegations and all this crazy stuff, and it's all about shitty people being shitty and treating other people poorly and all kinds of like discrimination and sexual harassment and just a million different things that have been happening, not just Ubisoft, but in this industry, and not just in this industry, but in every damn industry. I mean, there was reports of all the harassment and issues that were at Mixer before they got shut down.
We were talking about this last week. Well, rather, we didn't talk about last week, but I did acknowledge, hey, there's a lot of shit going on, and we don't know all the details on it yet. So,
yeah, and this is just kind of another piece of that. But when there's so much happening at once, it feels easy to say that there has to be at least a good amount of it that is true, and that's horrible.
One thing I don't have on here, by the way, is I believe one of the creative directors on a major Ubisoft title, I can't remember if it was the upcoming Assassin's Creed Ragnarok or not, he has taken a personal leave of absence to deal with the rumors of infidelity popping out. So there is, and he's admitted to that, there is some shit going on at Ubisoft.
Yep. And by and large, I tend to, until we hear the final verdict, I tend to side with the accuser as opposed to the accusee, because a lot of times the person making the accusation doesn't have a whole lot to gain besides being dragged to the mud and flamed on the internet. Right? So it sucks.
Once again, I'm staying out of this conversation on this particular, because if it was any other company other than Ubisoft where I didn't know people on, I'd get in on that.
That's fair. Anyway, well, you only get my opinion, and I think that shitty people doing shitty things should not have their jobs anymore, and that is the official stance of this half of GamePoints.
David, why don't you round us out now with the last news story that we got for you?
Finally, The Last of Us Part 2 has sold more than 4 million copies. The complete social media train wreck that is The Last of Us Part 2 is now the fastest selling first-party PS4 exclusive ever, with more than 4 million copies sold through as of June 21st. This comes directly from the US PlayStation blog. It is a game that critics adore it. I think last I checked, it had a 95% on Metacritic, and it still has a complete shit user rating because people love to get really mad on the internet.
As we've discussed before, I actually think review bombing is a ultimately good thing. It is an amazing tool to make your voice heard in an industry that typically ignores people. But like any tool, much like any tool, however, it can be used for absolutely stupid bullshit.
Yep. This game had a user review score of less than 3.5. Like it was like a 3.3 or 3.4 within the first few hours of the game being live.
Yes.
Like purchasable.
Yes.
And it's a 20, 30-hour game, as we've discussed. So it's just people being mad on the internet. So if you want to play The Last of Us and you're reading a bunch of angry Twitter users saying, fuck The Last of Us and fuck Naughty Dog, maybe just play The Last of Us, make your own decisions.
Yep. I will say also don't necessarily trust critic reviews either.
If you don't want to support Naughty Dog because of their history with like crunch and the way they treat their employees, then you could do that too. I am not you. I cannot make your decisions. All I can tell you is that people are buying the shit out of this video game.
It is the fastest selling with more than 4 million copies sold through. That is important to delineate because a lot of times a company will say shipped.
Shipped.
This means copies in hands of players. Seats and asses, as it were. Or asses and seats, rather.
No, seats and asses. That's how video games work. Seats and
asses.
Seats and asses, baby.
So, regardless of what you and I think about The Last of Us, I personally think it's a highly overrated game. And the second wave of critic reviews coming out tend to agree with me on that one. It is not, in my opinion, it is not a 10 out of 10. It is a solid 8 out of 10 game that gets dragged down to a 7 and even a high 6, in my opinion, because of its fucking atrocious pacing problems.
I mean, it can't be a 10 because it's a sequel to a game that didn't need a sequel.
Well, I mean, it can't be a 10 because of that. Don't get me wrong on that. It's just I think the game is horribly paced. A problem that Neil Druckmann's other recent game, Uncharted 4, also had issues with. That said, it's also not a 0 out of 10 like so many people want to flame it as. It is an alright game that has an amazing pedigree that people are kind of taking that into account. Kind of the same idea of why Breath of the Wild was Game of the Year, despite it being like a 7 out of 10 game. Same idea with this. And Sony can, has, and will blacklist you for giving negative reviews on games. There is an outlet that I write for who has absolutely been blasted or blacklisted by Sony because they gave God of War 3 and Horizon Zero Dawn middling review scores. And now they are no longer on that PlayStation list. So Sony does hold access as a threat over reviewers' heads. Keep that in mind.
Anyway, review scores don't matter.
No,
if you want to play a game, play the damn game. If you
I
don't want
also
to play it, don't play it.
I also 100% advocate for more and more outlets just to do with the review scores in general. I think review scores are fucking stupid.
Your numbers are arbitrary because everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
And everybody that plays the game and reviews the game likes a different kind of game.
And for some reason, we depending on where we're at, we rationalize the review score based on whatever our education system is. For example, to us, a 7 out of 10 is a C, so that's average. But some outlets, a 5 out of 10 is average. But
it's in the middle.
Yeah, so review scores are fucking dumb.
Yeah, that's true.
David, the review score argument is going to just be with us fucking forever because so much money is tied into Metacritic and specifically review scores. In fact, there are many companies that are like, hey, if you don't post a review score, you don't get a copy of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because Metacritic is what people with money want to see. And so this debate's going to rage forever. As we wait to see what the next inevitable outrage over review scores is going to be, what can I play to keep myself occupied? As I wait with bated breath for the next game controversy to pop up about whether review scores need to be had or not.
That's our favorite thing. Anyway, there's video games coming out this week. I don't think any of them are super crazy exciting, but we'll talk about them anyway. First up, Blaster Master Zero and Blaster Master Zero 2, which is a stupid name, come out for PS4 this week. These have been on PC for a while. I think they've got pretty positive reviews.
They're both amazing games. If they are a refined version of Blaster Master, which itself was a really fun game if you can get past its learning curve.
Anyway, this is an 8-bit style, top-down and side-view 2D action-adventure game that's kind of old-school Nintendo. There's fancy new gameplay elements compared to the original Blaster Master. It's different. Looking at the game, for the most part, it plays, if you don't know what we're talking about, think of like an old school Mega Man game, right? Jump and shoot, man. I'm going to jump and shoot my way through this level, except for when the game all of a sudden turns into Zelda. Like
the top-down Binding of Isaac style look.
And it has that kind of top-down, I'm moving around. So you get to a boss room, and it's not a Mega Man boss room. It's a Zelda boss room.
Yeah, they're really surprisingly good. And it's made by Inti Creates, which make amazing old-school games. These guys that did the Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Essentially the old 8-bit Castlevania version of Bloodstained. And the upcoming sequel to that, by the way. They're really good. They're really good.
These games, like I said, they're pretty popular. The second one is very much like the first one. It's a bit more refined, but I hear it's also more difficult than the first one. So take that as you will. Also out this week, Hunting Simulator 2. I swear that we already had...
We had our spate of hunting games. I think this might be the last of that. I don't think we've talked about this one before, though.
Well, it's kind of funny because this is a new franchise. This isn't like Cabela's or anything like that. This is Hunting Simulator 2, man. This is we just nailed it. This is how we're doing it. Anyway, PS4.
Hey, I like it when things are named after what they are.
Yep.
I like it when a fly is called a fly because that's exactly what it does.
A hunt and shoot game. It's a first-person sports game, right? Right. It's a first-person shooter, but it's more of a sporting. I'm walking around slow with my gun. So I'll give you the little details, right? It's got 3 different locations. You're in Texas, you're in Colorado, and then there's like a European locale. Then they have different seasons and all that other fun stuff. There's 33 different animals. There's a whole bunch of gear, all officially licensed from Browning and Winchester and Bushnell, plus clothing and accessories and all that other stuff. But most importantly, Hunting Simulator 2 has a hunting dog that you pick from your computer at home, and you have access to multiple breeds, including Beagle, a Lab, a German Shorthair, and you raise them from puppies, and you teach them to do what you need them to do, and they perform different kinds of hunting tasks. So this is the most I've ever been interested in a hunting game, because it's got a dog in it.
Fair enough.
It has multiple dogs, and they look great.
Fair enough.
The Otterman Empire, that's otter, like those big fluffy, not fluffy, fatty sea critters, as it were.
I love this name, by the way. I love this name.
What's funny is when I had to research this game, Google kept yelling at me. It's like, bro, are you sure you don't mean Ottoman? And I was like, yeah, fucker.
No, I'm researching sea creatures, not pieces of furniture, you fuck.
Xbox One, Switch, PC. This is a very casual style, like indie third-person shooter. It's a kind of party shooter for 1 to 4 people. You gear up, strap on your jetpack, travel across the galaxy, and have it causing party game mayhem. So it's got a bunch of different game modes. It definitely has that kind of over-the-shoulder. I'm trying to shoot my friends. Oh, almost cartoony like Splatoon, but with kind of animal critters. Like there's like a crocodile dude.
You know,
Splatoon
is the perfect way to sum this up. I got a big Splatoon 5 from this, but I just couldn't think of the game it was reminding me of.
Yep.
But with otters instead of squids.
Yep. Bunch of critters. Clash Force comes out for Xbox One and Switch. This is another retro platformer. Again, 8-bit style run and gun, inspired by Saturday morning cartoons of the 80s. It looks a lot like an old Genesis game, if I was going to describe, like, so less of a Super Nintendo action platformer and more of a Genesis action platformer. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Any sense?
Yeah. As generic as that description, as trying to compare those two sound, there is a difference between like NES and Genesis platforms. You can kind of visually see them in your head a little bit.
Okay. And it definitely has the sound of like a Genesis style game.
Okay.
And last but not least, Marvel's Iron Man VR finally comes out.
This was delayed. I think it was supposed to originally come out in April. I'm not 100% certain on that, but it did get pushed back.
It's a VR game where you can play as Iron Man, and you use 2 PlayStation Move controllers to, fire up his jets and soar through the skies and, I don't know, play Superman 64 in VR.
I have no interest in this game, David, but I'm kind of curious. Is this going to be like one of those like Star Wars Vader? It's an experience where it's only going to be like 30 minutes and then you're done, or is this going to be an actual game? And I think it's going to be an experience rather than a game.
And see, all this like pre-release hype that we've been looking at for the last year and a half made it feel like they were trying to make it an actual game. And that is my same worry, is that it's just a little like demo thing. But who knows? Maybe they built a whole game into it. I have no idea. We'll probably have to wait to see what everybody thinks. And,
the fact that this has no buzz whatsoever makes me think it's a very quick experience.
I also don't know how their embargo worked, because I don't think people were allowed to talk about it.
I don't know. I don't have access to it. Couldn't tell you.
But that's all I got.
David, that does it for new releases, which means that does it for the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 224, and thank you all for showing up. If you want to catch us live, we do stream every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints. But if you can't join the conversation live, you can always do so over at youtube.com/GamePointsPC, where we post all the old shows that we can. If you want to follow the show, you can do so on Twitter at GamePointsPC. You can follow myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21. And you can follow David there at Palsoff_Satori. You can join the Discord with the link provided down below if you want part of the greater GamePoints community. And you can also follow here for random streaming throughout the week, normally Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Although this Wednesday I won't be able to stream due to unforeseen medical condition stuff. Nothing serious, but it's going to eat my time. We will be back streaming for sure on Thursday with probably more Hades, if you're interested in taking a look at that. And then we will back more gaming news next Tuesday as well. But until then, thank you all for showing up. Stay safe, and we'll be seeing you.